So, I've been off camera for a while, so I decided, well, why not put myself on camera? Some of my subscribers love the way I look, and I don't know if you can tell because the exposure's down, because I don't have very nice lighting at the moment. I've got a new hairstyle, which I previewed on 2 different live shows recently. This is actually kind of bed hair version of it, but whatever. So, I was bored recently, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to look for some videos to pwn, or just to watch, really. And then I decided I was just going to watch something, and I came across a little ditty by something called Adam Ruins Everything, or whatever the fuck he's called. And I found some very interesting things to talk about. So, roll the intro.
Hello everyone, this is ChampionMan90. Ugh! Damn it, I can't see a thing in this.
Early video games like Pong were totally unisex.
Alright, anyone with half a brain will know that alarm bells will suddenly be ringing here, because all of a sudden I've noticed that they discuss sex already within the first couple of seconds. How apparently games, retro games, are somehow, you know, unisex, and they were amazing and they were beautiful and they weren't totally ruined by marketing and advertising. Yes, people, in this video, Adam basically says that advertising is the reason why games today are gendered and that more boys play more video games, and that's why women don't play video games. I don't know why he thinks that, but he does, and the results are hilarious. Just point that out there. So that's why he says, you know, one game is unisex, even though actually it's about playing table tennis or ping pong. So anyone can play that, and anyone can play any game. But as we've seen on this channel so many times, men and women have different choices and tastes. So even in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s, taste pretty much defined an audience. But nonetheless, you still, you know, well, that would be spoilers. So I can't just debunk the whole video within the, the first couple of minutes. So anyway, let's just see where Adam takes this. Oh, by the way, he has an extremely annoying African-American kid as his partner, so bear that in mind. Yeah, they are using kids, as usual, these fucking ideologues, so, yeah. Oh well. Next.
Am I a boy dot or a girl dot?
You're just a dot.
Ow, 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 ow.
In fact, the game was marketed to the entire family.
All games that are, you know, made for a family entertainment are directed and marketed towards the family. It is not the advertisers nor the developers' fault that mainly boys pick up their game, that they try desperately to advertise to everyone. You know, I mean, just because some adult males and young boys decide to play this game doesn't mean that they are marketing straight towards these people. No, they've tried to market to a vast majority of people, and they still continue to do this 40 years after Pong's inception, okay? They still try to do this, but obviously, because men and women have different tastes and different choices, what their marketing strategy has predicted their game to sell to might not always be correct, and their predicted audience or their target audience might not always be what they had in mind. But I mean, this next game, well, I'm sure you've got some historical accurate evidence and all sorts of things to discuss about your stupid argument about video games and how, you know, we're all sexist and how all gamers need to grow up and try and be, you know, just better human beings, or other human beings in your image, of course. But I couldn't possibly judge on that, no, not at all.
What about Pac-Man? He was a boy.
True, but the game was so popular with women that when it came time for a sequel, the developers gave it a female main character, Ms. Pac-Man.
Aw, yeah, I'm spooky.
Not Mrs., Ms. She was a modern 80s career woman.
I have an MBA in eating ghosts. Waka 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 waka.
Ah! She's so cold!
Yeah, because the game was marketed specifically for women. That's why. That's why it was so popular with women, because the developer himself said that they specifically wanted to market and create this game for women because not enough women were buying their games. And I have the quote here. And he says, "The reason I created Pac-Man was because we wanted to attract female gamers," he says. "Back then, there were no home games. People had to go to the arcade centre to play games. That was a playground for boys. It was dirty and smelly, so we wanted to include female players so it would become cleaner and brighter." Now, there were definitely home consoles at the time. There weren't home computers that could play games as far as I can remember. I'm probably wrong. I assume the first Apple Mac and the first PC could probably play games, but that's besides the point. You know, as if the ColecoVision and all those other games didn't exist. I mean, Pong was also a console, but that's besides the point. This game was marketed towards girls to bring them into the arcade. But have you guys noticed that this game and the other one is really old, and that's all they really can use to justify their arguments? These old games that aren't relevant anymore. They always have to go for the older ones, as if, you know, these games were there and there was nothing else until 10 years ago. But never mind, let's just continue and see where he's going, because that point was just not true at all. Not true at all. Miss Pac-Man was not the game that was made to market towards women. It was Pac-Man itself. Miss Pac-Man was just a palette swap, really. It was just the sequel that you make after a highly successful game. And it just so happened to be that they decided to make Miss Pac-Man. And no, she was not a career woman. She was just Pac-Man with a bow and lipstick on. It's basically Pac-Man in drag almost, but still Miss Pac-Man. So, like what you want to say, Adam, but the fact remains, Pac-Man is marketed towards women, and the developers themselves said so because the arcades were not being frequented enough by women. They're trying to market towards women here. So I don't understand how, you know, advertising is pushing women away from games when they are specifically marketing towards women. But, oh well, never mind. I mean, this is just retro gaming is using and not, you know, actual games being made today.
And not only was much of the audience female, many of the developers were too. Among the stars of early game design were Atari's Carol Shaw, Centipede creator Donna Bailey, and Roberta Williams, an adventure game pioneer and company co-founder, whose King's Quest series was a massive hit among gamers of all stripes.
Yeah, we know about these people and we respect these people, but they were not 50% of the population who were making video games. These girls were still, you know, a minority, but a respected minority nonetheless. And the sad fact of the matter is, you're using these people as if games back then were more equal, when games have always been equal. Video game development has always been mostly male because of the way that this industry is and the way that people make their life choices. But how come you have to use such old examples? These women could well be retired now. These women might not be making games anymore. I don't know if they're active anymore or not. Why can't you use more modern examples of women who are active today and making games? You know, why can't you do that? Yeah, these people existed. These people made great games. But it wasn't just those three. There were others as well in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s. Hell, even the 2000s. And yeah, the games were popular. But still, what's your point here? It's not proving your point whatsoever. You don't have a point to any of this.
Cool, seems like everything's great. Can I play my game now?
Nope, because all of that changed thanks to the video game crash of 1983.
I fail to see what the video game crash has to do with any of this. All it did was end jobs and end companies and all sorts of horrible things in the industry that it didn't fully recover from until, well, your next segment, the invention of the Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't know what the crash has to do with people's perceptions of video games. I don't think it really did anything other than, you know, create an amazing myth of E.T. But, oh well, go on. Explain.
Greedy publishers started flooding the market with shoddy games like I Want My Mommy, Lost Luggage, and E.T. for the Atari 2600, which has been called one of the worst games of all time.
Yuck! I'll play anything, and even I know that's a turd.
Most adults stopped playing games entirely, and the video game market cratered.
It has nothing to do with adults not buying it. It's more to do with the fact that supply meets demand, and there was an oversaturation in the market, which meant that there was too many games for people to buy. There's just too many. So demand dropped, and they had all this shit that they couldn't sell, hence why it crashed. It's not just because adults stopped buying, but never mind, let's just see where he goes.
So when it came time to market the original Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo devised a plan. Instead of selling it in the electronics section, they sold it in the toy aisle. But by then, the toy aisle was completely separated into pink and blue, boy and girl.
It always had been. What are you on about? Boys and girls have different toys, so it makes sense to put them in different aisles. Does it not? It's marketing basics. It's something that you don't seem to understand. The world has never been the PC paradise that you think it is, mate. Never been like that. And yeah, Nintendo was a toy manufacturer before it even stepped foot into video games. It's been going for 100 years. Maybe even more. It's been going since the 1890s. Before video games, they made cards and all sorts of other toys. So that's why they do what you're going to say they do. So let's just continue.
Nintendo had to choose a side. They went with boy, and then they marketed to those boys relentlessly.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? Now you're playing with power.
So one advertisement aimed at boys means that the entire thrust of their advertising campaign was directed at boys. Is that what you're saying, Adam? I don't think that's true at all. I think there's probably loads of other adverts you could point to that shows that it's for men and women, boys and girls. In fact, if you look at some of the box art, you can clearly see the entire family there. There's one that has 2 boys and there's one with 1 boy and 1 girl. And even the mother is interested in playing this game and watching her children play this game. Even her husband is interested too. So I don't see what you're looking at here. I don't see what you're getting at. It's clear that they are trying to market towards the entire family. Remember, Nintendo never released an over 18 game on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was meant for all the family. All these games that had the Nintendo seal of approval could be played by anyone. That's why, when the Super Nintendo came out, they censored Mortal Kombat 1, because they had a family-friendly service. But, never mind, family-friendly, that only applies to boys, apparently. And again, these old-ass, stupid examples these ideologues continuously use to berate gamers and the industry. It's a different time period. It doesn't even make sense. It's not even relevant to 2015. None of this is relevant to 2015. None of it.
Other brands soon followed suit.
Introducing Game Gear from Sega, that separates the men from the boys.
And kept marketing to them as they grew up.
So what? That doesn't prove there was a norm, does it? You're selecting very cherry-picked examples here, like you social justice warriors always do. This does not prove this is the norm, nor does it prove that it is an exception. None of this proves anything. None of it. Are you basically telling me that these people ignored an entire audience, as if like, oh, we want to make loads of money, but we're gonna ignore this other demographic? But we'll see if you're saying that or not.
It's not the size of your howitzer, it's what you do with it.
I got this pulling a 360 stalefish.
I know you like that. I know you love that.
It's all about the control.
You are so totally whipped.
Come and play with me.
And after decades of this kind of advertising,
What's up, bitch?
we now think of video games as being the exclusive domain of the male sex.
It seems like you've just got onto a jet ski and you're about to jump over the fucking shark. Is this what you're trying to tell me? That advertising has somehow incredibly influenced everyone to think that video games are a boy's domain, and not that maybe 30 to 20 years ago girls just were not interested until very recently to play these games for whatever reason. I do not know why they chose not to play these games. I do know that a lot did, but it seemed that it was still a minority of girls. But that's not besides the point. Are you seriously saying that these people advertised exclusively to men? Because that's not what I remember. I don't remember getting my first PS1 and my first PS2 and not seeing a woman on the package. I saw friends on my first PS2 box art of a man, a woman, and another woman, another man, I don't know, just a group of friends playing their PS2. And you see it on the Xbox 360 box art and on the PS3 and all the others. They're all marketed towards everybody. Every game developer, every game publisher, and everyone who makes hardware for these games want to market towards the biggest demographic. And I also refuse to believe that there's some kind of psychological thing in advertising that makes people believe certain things. No, an advertisement is made to make you want to buy something. It doesn't make you believe that something is for somebody else. A girl could look at all those things and still think, hey, that looks right up my alley, I'm going to buy that game. She's probably looking more at the gameplay than the silly jokes. Remember, advertising needs to use humour and other dramatic effects to get people to buy their games. There's nothing at all in with the actors who are all male. I mean, there are even women in there. Women also like porn stars and sexy ladies and funny sex jokes. Are you just going to deny that lesbians and bi women and some straight women who like that kind of thing don't exist? Or tomboys who aren't very effeminate. I only said female then, but I meant effeminate. They're not very feminine, are they? Tomboys. They like that kind of shit, but apparently, no, they don't exist, and that they're not being marketed towards. And we all now think because of adverts that video games is a male domain, when even as far back as 1979, again, I'm going to quote the maker of Pac-Man, boys were at the arcades. They were the vast majority, even back then. And you're trying to tell me that that wasn't the case? Pac-Man was made to bring more women into the fucking arcade because they just didn't have any. They were trying to make more money by getting a bigger audience. And you're telling me that they just thought, nah, fuck it. Boys, we'll make loads of money that way, even though we could make more money off women as well. But, no, well, you jumped the shark here, mate. That is complete bullshit, and you know it.
Okay, those ads are weird, but boys just like video games more than girls do.
Sorry, Jake, that's a straight up myth. More adult women play video games than teenage boys do.
Now I know exactly what you're pulling here. You're trying to use the mobile market and some bullshit ESA statistics to prove this myth is a myth. When actually you're just trying to disprove a myth with a myth. The fact of the matter is that is untrue. You're using the mobile market of games, which, by the way, is a completely separate thing to, you know, AAA and indie markets, as a proof that, oh, these women are gamers. They're not gamers. Some of these people only have these games to pass the time on the train. That is what they're made for. They are not made for, say, the likes of me or the people who go to the gaming club that I go to at my former uni, which is made up of men and women and trans people and all sorts. Those are not made for those people. They're made for people I don't know. I don't want to say my colleagues at work, but they are. They're meant for people to pass the time. They're not true gaming experiences. That's why they're like that. They're casual games. It's the casual market. It is a separate thing to the hardcore market, as you call it. And it doesn't prove that more adult women play games than adult men, because they don't show the how they made those statistics, how they researched it, and whatever. So until they do that, I will not accept this as evidence. I will not. And if you're going to keep using that example, I will continue to debunk it.
That's just counting stupid phone games.
So? Games are games, Jake. All that means is that mainstream consoles like PS4 and Xbox One are refusing to serve a huge untapped market.
Right, you have jumped the shark. You have seriously jumped the shark. And games do not necessarily mean games are games. These are clearly not true video games, whether you like it or not. They are passing the time apps. That's all they are. Would you seriously consider something like that and compare it to Skyrim and say that is a game? That is clearly not a true video game. It isn't. And it's not played by gamers either. These women are not gamers. Or these men are not gamers, okay? These are people who need something to pass the time on the train, on the tram, whatever, or on their breaks. So they get a casual game like this. They probably don't play the PS3 or PS4 or the Xbox, because that's not something that's interesting to them. These are not gamers. This is an overinflating. This is adding people who do not, count as gamers. These are not gamers. They're not. So that is what. This is probably where this has come from. The ESA are trying to come up with an agenda. They have a preconceived notion of what this is, and they know that these people are not gamers. But they add them in anyway. It's kind of like the bullshit 1 in 4 sexual assault statistics, where they widen the meaning of what it is to be sexually assaulted and what a rapist or sexual assaulter is in order to, come up with this statistic. It's bullshit. Would you seriously consider something like Depression Quest to be a game? No, it isn't. So your whole notion that these people are ignoring an untapped market is untrue. Look at the Nintendo Wii. That is played by almost every conceivable demographic you can imagine. Old people, men, women, children. That is still one of the most successful video game consoles. The PS2 is the most successful video game console of all time. It was continually selling well into this decade, in fact. They only recently stopped making units and selling units, and it still is the biggest selling, and that is through across demographics. Whether you like it or not, they are advertising to as big a market as they possibly can. These are companies. These are companies that make money. You think they are that stupid as to seriously just market towards one other demographic because that's what stereotypically it is? No, that's bullshit. There's a reason why there's female gamers in the Black Ops 3 advert now. Because there are female gamers and they play COD. Just because you can't tell what people are on the internet doesn't mean they're not playing the game. It's ludicrous what you're saying there. This is some crazy Marxist bullshit. You clearly have no idea how economics works. Or how a video game company works. Or how any company works. Look, if it was Barbie, yeah, it makes sense. Barbies are for girls. Or Action Man is for boys. But video games can be played by anyone. And really, it's up to the free market to decide who's going to buy what, isn't it? Because we've all got a free choice. And if more boys play COD than girls, so what? It's almost as if The Sims doesn't exist because more girls play that than boys. I remember playing the first one, but I've not played another one since. So, what? Are you just going to ignore that game? Oh, that's just played by all boys because it's a video game. It's made by EA. They obviously like to appeal to nothing but boys. Ludicrous.
Untapped market.
We're talking millions of women who would love to play more games, but are being pushed away from the hobby by weird, old-fashioned marketing that publishers are sticking with, seemingly out of sheer force of habit.
What? That is stupid. Are you seriously saying that advertising is forcing people away? These gaming developers and these publishers are forcing women away because of these advertising habits? Have you not seen what a recent video game advertisement looks like? You clearly have not, because you are not a gamer. You are not somebody who is part of the community or the industry and who knows how it works. You clearly do not know how it works. Look at the recent advertisements. Diverse as hell. They're trying to appeal to a mass market. They are not trying to push away girls. They are not accidentally pushing anyone away. If the game doesn't sell with a certain demographic, it doesn't. But at least they tried. You're not even making sense at this point. This is a bullshit assertion. This is something that is not grounded in reality, because it's clear as hell just looking at the TV, looking at how companies market, that they're not doing what you're saying they're doing. And they've never done what you're saying they're doing. It's quite the opposite. Your own evidence is counterproductive to your point. This is not the reason why people see it as an all-boys club. The reason they see it as an all-boys club is because of people like you who keeps telling them that it's an all-boys club. It's not gamers that are telling people that it's like that. Gamers will say, oh yeah, we play with boys and girls and old people and all sorts. But no, it's you who has to tell them that it's a all-boys club. And then you wonder why people consider it to be an all-boys club, even though it isn't, and never has been, and never will be. It's you! It's you and your agenda pushing, or the media. Beforehand, the right-wing media pushed that narrative first, before you social justice warriors came along. It's all of you. It's your narrative that's pushing that narrative, not the advertising of publishers who need to make as much money as possible in order to sell this game and to cover the costs. You do realise they're like films now, right? They've got massive $1 million budgets, but never mind. Games, they're all marketed to boys and they're pushing women away who would like to be gamers, but because of an advert. You don't even need an advert to buy a console. You can just see a game and think, okay, I want to buy that. You don't need an advert. Some of these people probably were never going to be gamers in the first place. You cannot make such a bullshit assertion like that. That is incredible.
Force of habit.
Ow, who's doing that? Why are you hurting me, Megan?
Because I'm mad at you. I like games. I've always liked them. It's just sometimes I feel like they don't love me back.
What kind of line is that? I love games, but sometimes games don't love me back. Games are not sentient beings. I think you mean the gaming industry. The gaming industry wants your parents' dollars, girl. If you want a video game, you will get a video game. By these publishers, by these developers. They want you to play these games. They want your parents to buy these games for you. It's not their fault that you are being used for an agenda-pushing driven video on college humour. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. What kind of line is that? How do games not love a demo? What? How did the gaming industry not try and appeal to you? These people can never be pleased. You can appeal to the biggest audience possible, but these people will not be pleased because of some nitpicking detail.
You act like I'm not supposed to play them or something just because you listen to all these stupid ads.
Bloody hell, this Marxist ideology is really beginning to grate on me. Who the hell is influenced by ads like that? Who the hell is so weak-minded that they believe this bullshit? How can you believe that developers and advertising agencies and publishers are putting these subliminal messages in to say, video games are for boys, video games are for boys, video games are for boys, and suddenly everyone now believes that? That is bullshit. That doesn't even make sense. There is no evidence at all to suggest that they're doing that. This is like the time when Judas Priest was sued because of their album Stained Class was listened to by 2 fans who committed suicide and had a suicide pact, which totally ignores maybe that they had mental illnesses and other things were going on in their lives maybe. But no, it was the music's fault. And this is the same thing. It's the video game advertisers' fault. It's the video game industry's fault that our narrative has made people think that games are for boys. And it's totally not our fault. It's the industry's fault. Despite the fact that they totally are actually, you know, trying to appeal to a mass audience, a mass market. But no, it's their fault, even though it's you guys pushing this narrative. And I've never met anybody besides someone maybe his age, but even then, I got over that. Even then, people get over that shit. It's like they don't believe that bullshit. I've never met a gamer who says it's just for boys, unless you're a little kid who probably just wants to keep the console to yourself and go, oh, nah, it's for boys only. It's bullshit. Never met anyone like that. This video is one big straw man. Again, meant to demonize gamers.
Jake, video games are the greatest new art form of the century. They can do anything. Saying they're for just one gender is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like saying movies are just for girls or books are just for dads.
But that's exactly the kind of narrative you've been pushing in order to say that, oh yeah, we need diversity here because it's just an all boys club. That is you pushing that narrative in order to somehow fix it, and now people are starting to believe that bullshit. Do you not remember when you guys demonized gamers at the worst level you possibly have during Gamergate's height? And then next thing you know, Law and Order SVU comes out with the "Go Home Gamer Girl" thing, and then you all raised your arms up in absolute horror that a TV show could make such a horrible, demeaning episode about a people, a culture. Yet you fail to realise that it was you people who planted those ideas in their heads in the first time because of your narrative. This is all your fault. Not the gamers, not the industry, not the advertisers. It's your fault that people think this, not us.
Stupid.
When we think about video games in such a limited way, it makes the games worse, it loses the industry money, and it's really mean to your sister.
But they don't think about it that way, and that's why video games are so fucking good in the first place. That people are allowed to make the games that they want to make, and, you know, advertise to whoever they want. You know, a AAA game will be advertised to as large an audience as possible, whereas a game that is more niche, like an indie game, will be probably marketed towards a smaller market. But even then, they don't ignore 50% of that bloody market in the first place, do they? No, games will be made shit because of your social justice vision of what games should be. You know, not fun, politically correct, and all this other bullshit that I could go on about. But this video is already over 30 minutes. No, your vision for video games is making them shit. Our vision might just save them and make them good. For at least a little while longer, at least, you know?
Just wait, he'll burn out in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I've seen this before.
And we end with a horrible stereotype of the male gamer going, "Oh my god," on the internet. Even though that's the social justice warriors who do that thing anyway, not us. But, oh well, never mind. See, this is one of the most frustrating things, that we see things like College Humor, you know, these companies making such bullshit videos like this that just do nothing but advance the agenda of these ideologues that have invaded the gaming industry. I mean, Luz Laval doesn't know why they're in here, but I have a pretty good idea. I can't necessarily prove it. Although, if you see this video and the things that I've done before, it's quite obvious that a pattern emerges that it's all about control and, you know, all sorts of stuff. That's why the religious right tried to do it. It was all about control. It wasn't about saving the kids. It's about controlling this thing that they can't get their hands on, you know. But, oh well, that's my take on why they're in the industry. All I know is that they do definitely have to pack their bags and leave because they are not welcome here. We do not want these people influencing games like they already are. We want people to be able to be free to do what they want to do and create what they want to create. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, you like it. But, oh well. You are not welcome here, SJWs or right-wing conservatives. Although you're all pretty much social justice warriors anyway. It's just two sides of the same coin, in my opinion. But, oh well. Until next time, I'll see you all later.